What's up, everybody? Swillow here, and today I want to go over the new Hyrule Warriors trailer that just dropped this morning. This is the Untold Chronicles from 100 Years Past Part 3. So this was a pretty short trailer. This was more of a hype trailer than anything, so there's not a lot to it, but there were a couple of interesting observations I made in it, so I definitely want to point those out. The first thing we're going to do is just watch the trailer in its full entirety. I'm not going to say anything, and then after that I'll go back and point out the interesting parts.
Finally! Somebody sees me! Asuka!
Be still. Impressive.
Now this! Over you! Magnesis! Here it goes! Terrifying.
Think you can keep up?
Alright, so that's it. Pretty straightforward, not a lot to it, but there are definitely some interesting things in here to look at. So first I want to put the playback speed down so we can look at these a little better, and let's get right in here. So one of the first things we're going to see is Link using the Spear moveset. The Spear moveset, that's something he did not have in a previous Hyrule Warriors, but this isn't foreign to Musou games at all. With the amount of polearm users that exist in Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, this is all pretty expected. This is definitely like Omega Force's thing. And also in the previous Hyrule Warriors, even though Link did not have a Spear moveset, we did have input with a Naginata, and we did have Volga. So let's check this out. We get a multi-stabbing attack here into a thrust. That looks like one singular charge attack, maybe even just a standard string, but the knockback on that thrust definitely makes it look more in the charge attack territory. Next up, we get to see the first three hits of the two-handed string, which we've already seen some of this, but there's something interesting and different about this compared to the treehouse presentation. So Link does the horizontal, and then he does the uppercut, and then right here he jumps up and he does a slam down. So what's interesting here is that this is slightly different from how it plays out with the hammer. So I already have this pulled up for reference, but this is the treehouse trailer, and basically what happens here is Link does like a full front flip for the third hit instead of just jumping up and slamming down. So there's the horizontal swing, the uppercut, and then he does a full front flip right here before slamming down. It's pretty much the same effect. Like, the utility and everything of it doesn't really look different, but it is a minor animation variation, and I'm curious how this is going to play out with other weapons within the same class. I wonder if there's even potential for some of the animations to be like utility-wise different, because it definitely looks like, even though these are both in the same weapon class of two-handed weapons, there's a small animation variation in there. Even though the utility of it does look the same, there's potential for more, right? So I think that's the most interesting thing we can pull from this, is that even within the same class, certain weapons have the potential to have unique things, even if it's just visually, which is pretty cool. I think it's like a cool little touch of quality. Next up, we get to see something pretty interesting, which is Link using the boomerang. And we've seen Link use the boomerang, right? This is also him looking like he's doing the running attack with the boomerang. But you know what's interesting here is he seems to be using it as his main weapon, his main hand weapon. So the boomerang has always been a tool, a sub-weapon within the Zelda franchise. It was that way in Hyrule Warriors as well. But it seems like Link is actually using the boomerang as a straight up main weapon in this game. And we have seen boomerang style movesets used in KT games before. You know, we saw it in Dragon Quest Heroes. There was a character like completely dedicated to boomerangs. I think a couple of them actually. You know, we've seen it in Dynasty Warriors. We've seen the boomerang style movesets used in Musou games before, but it's really cool here in reference to Zelda specifically, because the Boomerang is definitely one of Link's most iconic offhand weapons, and now we get the potential to use it as a main hand weapon, which is just really fun, I think. So I'm definitely looking forward to trying that, as it looks like it could be really fun. We don't really get to see much in terms of its animations or strings or anything here. We just get to see one single attack and then a running attack, but it's the idea that's cool. Here we see Korok Seeds. It looks like Korok Seeds are probably going to be in every single stage in this game. They're pretty much implying this is going to be a really big collectible like it was in Breath of the Wild. So, I mean, look forward to that or don't look forward to that. You know, I have mixed feelings about hunting for Korok Seeds. But we've seen stuff like this in Muso games before where you have to collect a lot of stuff. You know, we've seen it in the previous Hyrule Warriors, Fire Emblem Warriors, others. Collectibles are in games. You know, there's not much else to say. So this last bit is nothing too impressive. It's just showing them do four different Sheikah Slate rune abilities with each character. Now the thing we know here so far is that each character's Sheikah Slate abilities are completely unique to them. So that means like if Zelda uses remote bombs, it's a completely different attack from when Link uses the remote bombs. So each character has 4 completely unique attacks with each of the Sheikah Slate runes, which is really cool. So right here we're just seeing Cryonis Stasis, which is a really popular one we've seen a lot of. We have Remote Bomb. We've seen this one specifically in the Treehouse stream already, which looks like a fun attack. And then we see Magnesis. I don't think we've seen Magnesis in any footage yet, or at least I can't remember it off the top of my head, but we definitely see it there with Impa. I don't think we saw that in the Treehouse presentation. And that's basically it. Now, I do want to talk about one thing with the Sheikah Slate rune abilities, because there's something, it's very cool in how each of the characters have like 4 unique abilities off of them, but it's very scary because I've seen how the system works, right? So when you use a single Sheikah Slate rune ability, the whole Sheikah Slate goes on cooldown, and you cannot use any other Sheikah Slate abilities. So that means that if we can only use one of the 4 abilities and then we have to wait a while before we can use any of them again, that's going to limit the gameplay a lot, considering how unique each of these actions are. And let me give 2 reference points of other games that have had this similar approach, but they've did it with a universal cooldown and an individual cooldown. So in Warriors Orochi 4, and I've definitely talked about this, like if you've really like followed my content and you know about what I've said about Warriors Orochi 4, you already know what's up with this. But in Warriors Orochi 4, the way it works is you have a magic meter, and it's shared between all 3 characters and all 9 magic abilities. And that means if you use one magic ability that consumes your whole entire meter, you're locked out of all 3 characters' magic abilities until that thing fills back up. Now, you know, this just limits the gameplay a lot, and it makes you only want to use the best magic ability over anything else. Even though a lot of the magic abilities are super cool. Like, the magic abilities in Warriors Orochi 4 were, like, pretty crazy and fun and unique, but you really didn't get to use them all much because it just made sense to only use the best one, because you're sharing this bar among everybody in every ability. And that seems to be the case of what this game's doing for. So we've seen these Sheikah Slate rune abilities, and they look super cool. They're super unique and they're super cool, but the fact that we may just resort to only using the best one after a while, it's kind of disappointing, right? It really takes away from the effort they put into making each one of these unique and distinct. So I don't know. I hope this doesn't play out the way I'm seeing it in my head, but Warriors Orochi 4 really limited its gameplay potential a lot with a universal cooldown system, and this game seems to be adopting something similar. The other contrast to this being done right is Pirate Warriors 4. So in One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, you had 4 different R1 abilities, but all of them had an individual cooldown. So if I use one of my R1 abilities, it goes on cooldown, but my other 3 I can still use. So I can mix and match all my R1s and use them when I see fit. Use it when it makes sense to use this move, rather than being like, well, I have to use this move because it's better than these other moves, and these other moves are just not going to get used at all, or they're only going to get used in their super niche like utility phase. So I don't know, like, that's, if there's any one single concern I have about this game so far, it's how the Sheikah Slate rune ability cooldown works, because it could potentially limit the gameplay a bit and take away from how cool all the moves are. Obviously you can play however you want, but I think a lot of people, especially when you're like playing these games long term and you're doing a lot of grinding, you want to just be a bit optimal in it, and you want to use like the best moves after a while. And that, unfortunately, if it reaches that phase where people are really just focused on choosing the best option, it's going to create a scenario where we're not getting the full extent of the combat options, which is unfortunate to think about. But we really have to wait till the game comes out and see the reality of it. Maybe the abilities are really well balanced and they're all going to be worth using. I don't know. We just have to wait and see. This is definitely like a speculation point on my end. But anyways, that's pretty much it. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll definitely be back for the next trailer to discuss whatever we see there, assuming there's anything interesting in it. Peace.